Hello and welcome to the Moonshine Jesus Show, where today we're talking about the end of Oak Street. We are brought to you by the Center for Progressive Christianity, a wonderful place to get all your progressive Christian resource needs and a place that is leading the way in progressive religion. The Progressive Christian Alliance, a movement and denomination that rallies together around the principles of justice, respect, and inclusion, and the Christian left, a nationwide ministry and community for progressive Christians and allies. I'm joined as always by Mark Sandlin. How are you doing today, Mark?
Doing great, sir. Always excited to do the show with you. So I can't wait till we dive into this and have some great discussions.
Oh, absolutely. And this is a pretty new show. So just in case you haven't seen it and you're planning to run to the theaters, you should know that we are going to spoil this for you. There will be spoilers here. So if that is the case for you, then pause this and come back and hear what we have to say afterwards. Or if you don't mind us spoiling it, then, maybe you can go into the show knowing a bit more about the theology and politics and maybe even ready to out on a higher level.
Something to watch for and kind of process.
That's right. I mean, I think that's how people should use the Moonshine Jesus Show, Mark. That we don't be afraid of spoilers. Yeah, because we spoil things in a fun way. It's fun spoiling.
Sometimes it's
with
fun
drinks.
Spoiling it, though.
Sometimes it's just fun. Yeah. But there are drinks, so it's always fun. It's always fun. What do you have to drink?
Yeah, I agree. Since the name of this is the end of Oak Street, I'm having a drink called the Old Oak. It is bourbon, Amaro, dry curacao, and some bitters on top of it. And there it is. Comes out a little orange because of that dry curacao. How about yourself? What are you doing?
Well, I was inspired by one of my other favorite dinosaur movies, Jurassic Park, and the mosquito in the amber. And so I have something called an amber old fashioned
Lovely.
here, which is mostly just an old fashioned with a few different bitters put in there. So cheers to you, Mark. I'm glad we both got a bourbon drink today. We're ready for this.
Perfect.
Yeah,
perfect.
Yeah. Take a sip.
It's just going to get better at this point.
It's going to get better. Of course. Absolutely.
Moonshine Jesus. Moonshine Jesus. Moonshine Jesus. Moonshine Jesus. Won't you shine a light?
Welcome to our Geek Out segment, where we will geek out a little bit about the movie, about the production, about things around and about it. We're going to try to keep this a little bit shorter than our next segment. That way we get to the meat of the show, where we talk about the theology and the politics of the end of Oak Street. And for those of you who may not be familiar with the end of Oak Street, it was sort of weirdly under promoted, considering it's got Anne Hathaway and even
Ewan McGregor in it too.
Ewan McGregor, Ewan McGregor. It was weirdly under promoted. So for those who might not know, the end of Oak Street is basically what happens when an ordinary suburban family, as this happened, discovers that their neighborhood has been dropped in the middle of the prehistoric past. I mean, it happens all the time. So, normal family problem. Yeah, this happens all the time. I thought it happened to me last night. It turned out it was. So anyway, what you end up with is just the normal family problems, strained relationships, questionable decisions, and, now dinosaurs as well. So that's kind of the setup for the show. But Caleb, I got a question for you before I even ask you what you thought of this. Is this a dinosaur movie? Or is this a time travel movie, or is this a family drama, or is this an homage to 1980s movies, or is this a multiverse origin story, or is it something completely different? What is this?
Well, see, I was going to say, in the grand tradition of 80s movies to which this is paying homage, it's a little bit of
Absolutely.
everything. And, it's kind of all of that tied in together. It's not real tightly defined. It's a little chaotic. And I kind of like that about it, man. Like to me, I did. I wondered as I was sitting there watching. I thought, I wonder what Mark's going to think about this. But I loved it because I'm like, this feels like a movie I would have actually watched in the like an actual 80s movie. It's
Right.
it's like it's nothing's really explained. We don't really find out anything about why they went back in time. We don't really get any answers about anything. We get family dynamics. We get dinosaurs. We get the chaos of it all. And
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I was there for it. I liked it.
So
how about you?
So the movie had you the whole time. You were there. You're like,
it did. And I knew nothing about it. In fact, like when you said, "Hey, let's watch this" last week, I hadn't even heard of it. Like you said, it was under promoted, right? I hadn't seen a single trailer for this, and I've gone to the movies like a lot lately, and I hadn't seen any trailers for this. I didn't even know about it. I didn't even do any research before I went in other than to know it was about dinosaurs. And I'm like, oh, this is like set in the 80s. And then we're like doing time travel. And I'm like, I loved it. I like 80s time travel. I thought it was over the top. It was campy. It was something that I didn't expect. And it felt like an 80s movie, and I liked it because of that. How about you? What do you think it was really about, and did you like it?
I think this was very intentionally all of the above, and it was supposed to be, because for the exact reasons you're saying. It was sort of the formula of 80s movies where if it seemed like it would be fun and it would be interesting to see the characters involved in it, throw it in there. Just weave it into the story, let it go. So I have kind of two takes. When I left the movie theater, I was like, well, that was entertaining. I got some issues with it. My first issue, there were three big ones for me, and I think no one's going to agree with two of them and barely agree with one of them. The first issue for me was, and you used the word already, it is just the concept, more or less everything else about it is very campy.
Yeah.
I got no issue with campy, except this movie felt like it kept trying to take itself seriously. And I was like, that doesn't work for me. This could have been one of the best camp movies in a long time. It was just so ridiculous at times. So that was one of my issues was that. I was like,
and the trailer made it look, when I did go back and watch the trailer, it was like it looked very serious. It was like a horror movie even. But
my second one, and I know no one's going to agree with this. I really feel like there were moments where Ewan McGregor was not good. There were moments
his accent slipped sometimes.
His accent was off, but also his acting every once in a while felt like he didn't buy that he was this character, and it was just like it threw me out. Anne Hathaway killed it the whole way. So did the two kids. And when McGregor was on, he was on. It was fine. But every now and then he just pulled me out, and I don't know what was going on. But that just
that was also kind of 80s, man. Like actors are not really in; they're kind of phoning it in. If he did slipping on and off, okay.
If he did that on purpose to imitate the actors of the 80s, he's much better than I'm giving him credit for. And then my only other part. I thought the first half hour was really good and interesting. I thought the last half hour was really good and interesting. And I thought the middle hour felt like they were just trying to figure out how many ways can they have a dinosaur chase. And the dinosaur chases were good. They were fun. But after about the fifth one, I was like, okay, I get it. Dinosaurs are scary. They're going to run after you. You better be smart. You better have a weapon. You better get out of sight. I just kind of felt like that went on a little bit
got bored?
too long. It was, I did. I really did. Caleb, it was the first time in a long time, and I wasn't going to, but I almost thought, God, I almost just want to, I'm kind of done with it.
You almost walked out. You almost walked out.
didn't. I had the thought.
I can't
wasn't
believe
going
it.
to do it. I had the thought I wasn't going to do it. It just kept going on and on. I
Yeah.
was like, come on.
Here I am. I'm like sitting there, Mark. I'm like glued to. I'm like, I literally texted my wife. I'm like, this movie's great. I love this.
Well,
yeah.
I started out saying I'm kind of two different opinions. After I've sat with it longer,
Okay.
I like the movie better than I did when I initially walked out.
Yeah.
I do think that the biggest downfall is they could have made it more campy. They needed to be more clear that this is a camp, and then it would have fixed a lot of problems, like say the CGI when Ewan McGregor gets his leg bitten off, and how bad that was. Oh my God, they buried him halfway into the dirt and then stuck out this fake leg and then put bad.
Well, let me ask you too. Like, man, how did you in the theater respond when that happened? Like, what was your reaction, and what was the theater doing?
The whole theater was a deep inhale, and then it got quiet. It was like, oh.
Really? So my theater, everyone was laughing. Everyone laughed when he got eaten. Like when the leg came off, everyone was cracking up.
When it was clear he was going to be dead, that he was going to be eaten, there was an inhale and silence. Once that leg, really horrible. They clearly buried him half in the dirt and put this prosthetic leg out, and then put horrible CGI blood on it. Then everybody, it was weirdly nervous giggling. It wasn't laughter. It was like people just kind of like, and I think it's because like if you were playing camp for camp, that's funny, that's hilarious. If you're taking your camp a little too seriously, it's kind of embarrassing for you. It's like, oh my God, is that really what you're going with? All right, I need us to keep moving on before we run out of time on these questions.
Okay.
Here. Why is this set in the 80s at all? Does the movie actually need to be in a period setting, or does Hollywood just kind of know that Gen X nostalgia is, basically a renewable resource at this point, and they're hurting bad, so they're just going for what they know works? I don't know.
Gen X and elder millennials like me, that we're just gonna go to the 80s. For me, like it was for me, it was because the storytelling was also an 80s style of storytelling. So the way I interpreted the movie was that it was intentionally campy, and that they were intentionally making an 80s movie today. And so so for me, the reason it was set in the 80s was for that reason, to help us realize that this was an 80s movie. We were watching an 80s movie made in 2026. But I agree that they didn't really make it clear. I don't think they made it clear though, because like I said, it wasn't promoted, and then the trailer did make it seem like a thriller. And so I don't think, I didn't know going in that's what I was walking into, and I think probably a lot of people didn't.
That's probably fair. That's probably.
How about you?
I there was a moment or two early on where the reason I think it was set in the 80s was because if someone had a cell phone, this whole thing would have been okay. It just felt like there were a couple of times where if you'd have just been, "Hey kids, where are you?" Might have been all right. But
they wouldn't have had cell towers, man.
The cell towers wouldn't have been there. Once I don't know. They wouldn't have had cell towers. You're right. But it was early on, before it was during the first kind of lightning storm, big light where people were scared, and I felt, if we had but I think you're right. I think it's just that they were telegraphing what we're doing here, so you can play along with us. So let's talk about the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
How accurate do you think the dinosaurs were in this movie?
Well, they had feathers. And so like we've
Hollywood doesn't like to do that.
They don't like to do that, but we know that like dinosaurs most likely had feathers. We know that they were their closest.
They had hollow bone structure,
hollow bone structures that birds are related to them.
We know,
So I liked seeing that in a Hollywood movie. I was trying to think of what other movie I had seen where they had done that, and
I couldn't think of any.
Really think of any?
I have to say, the first time we saw the dinosaur come up that had like that loose feather structure, me and another couple that wasn't far from me actually gave a quick little clap, like, you got it right, finally, to
Yes,
Hollywood. Well
yes.
done.
Yeah.
So there were
Yeah.
other folks in there that were kind of like, okay, all right. We're actually trying to like create something that's, you know, more realistic to what would have been going on. And I loved that. I thought it worked for the movie. I know that there'll be some folks that probably feel like it threw them off or whatever, but I really like that. Had to bring it up just because we don't see it that much, and I hope that we start seeing it more. Here's my last question.
Okay.
And I think folks have already heard us talking enough to know that this is kind of where we are with it too. Everybody's going to call this a Spielbergian movie, right? I'm curious, what specifically makes something feel like a Spielbergian movie? Is there some kind of, I don't know, cinematic language that points to it? Or have we actually just reached the point where if it's got kids, suburban 80s, danger, bicycles, and a supernatural mystery, we're going to call it Spielbergian?
Probably the latter, honestly, but but I do think things that mark Spielberg films are things like using kids to tell stories, as you said. I think a bright, optimistic tone tend to be things that are.
I guess we
Spielbergian.
finally got there.
Yeah, towards the end,
that way.
right? We finished that way. I think also since John Williams is so tied into this, like a bright score also tends to be Spielbergian, and that was one thing that stood
I would
out
go
to me.
as far as
Obviously,
I go as far as to say, even when the story isn't bright and upbeat, the score hints towards bright and upbeat to kind of keep us there, you know.
I think that's fair.
Williams is great at doing that.
Yes, and even though obviously Williams didn't score this,
No,
the score did. It felt like John. It felt like optimistic, right?
I think I read this somewhere, that the person who did score this, like, scored, I might be wrong, a Star Wars cartoon that was right beside a Star Wars movie that had Williams kind of stuff, and did almost an understudy to make sure that it kept that kind of connection between the two. I think I read that. So, and it would make sense because it had that feel.
Yeah, it was very bright. Even in moments, like you said, where it was dark, the score was still bright. It wasn't like Danny Elfman scored this thing, you know, like it was bright. And so in those ways, I also think kind of visually we got grand. I think that this is another thing that sets Spielberg apart, is like we get kind of grand pictures of things, and so we did get really grand pictures of the dinosaurs and stuff, as well as some tight chases.
And there's always those few shots where you kind of know that there's something immense in front of you, but they stay in tight with the characters, and then they just slowly pull out and let the scene get larger and larger. And it's in every one of those kinds of movies, right?
Well, they also kind of made fun of that too, right? Because there was the scene where they're like, the camera's like right on their face, and then you can like see the kids in the background. It's like what are they doing with this shot? Anyway.
Well, we could go on and on geeking out, but we need to go ahead and take a quick drop so that we can get to our theological political segment. So, everyone, if you got a drink with you, have a few extra sips. We're going to take a drop, and we'll see you on the other side.
Welcome back to the Moonshine Jesus Show. We're moving into our Theo Politico segment, where we will talk about the theology and politics of the end of Oak Street. And Mark, my first question is this.
Yes.
Is Oak Street itself symbolic? Here we've got kind of the safe American suburb in the 1980s. and
Uh-huh.
not exactly the height of suburbs, but really it's when we've got the suburbification of the United States, where
Uh-huh.
everyone's kind of moving to the suburbs, and a lot of people moved for safety and really for homogeny. Uh,
All
Tell
right.
me, is this like suburb being taken out of place? Does that say anything about like the nature of suburban life itself?
Oh, I am sure that you could write full term papers on what this says about the nature of suburbia itself. I think one of the things that this show did particularly well, um, I don't know if I agree with its conclusion, but the conclusion seems to be that those suburbs people move there for a more of a sense of connected community and less of a sense of separation of the big city and all of that kind of stuff. And that when push came to shove, those connections were barely there for most of the folks. It was each for their own. And maybe it's partly telling us the story of something about being human and survival, and what that looks like when even when we're in community. Because let's face it, they all would have done a lot better if they would have immediately worked together,
Yeah.
and they almost never did, other than the two kids who seemed to get it right when they see another kid and said, "Hey, you can be with us now." um, so that was one of the big ones for me. I think there are lots of other commentaries going on there. Being cut off from the rest of civilization, and who does that make you be, and how quickly do we go back to our most primal instincts and that kind of stuff. But um, I don't know in a campy movie that there was a much higher intent. Not that that you couldn't read some of the stuff, but I just am not sure that it was actually intentionally in there much deeper than that. But I don't know. You could change my mind. What did you think?
I don't think it was intentionally in there, but I do think that it makes a commentary about suburbs in and of themselves and our sense of safety, right? Like we
Mm,
tend to think that we are safer. And I don't think even consciously, but a lot of people
yeah,
tend to think they are safer when they're in homogenous environments and when they are removed from things that
sure.
they perceive as dangerous. And I think one thing that we see whenever like an entire neighborhood is literally transported to a different time is that like
Yeah.
all of that sense of safety and security, whether it's suburbs or a gated community or whatever other boundaries we put up, that all of
Hmm.
that is kind of a false sense of safety, that it is something that we cling to try and keep life seeming stable, but that
Yeah, and
we don't really know.
yeah, and then it's strange that some of that comes from what you just called earlier a sense of homogeny. I mean,
Yeah.
why does that feel safe to us
Well, I think
when we even folks
that's a good
who
question, man.
know that
Yeah.
diversity makes life larger and more interesting and more engaging, and you learn more
Yeah.
and you discover more, even those folks, there is something about that sameness of the
Yeah.
suburbs that somehow
Yeah.
tells folks that it's safer. I i
Yeah.
wonder what it is
I think
about
it's
the human.
tribalism. I think it's like tribalism. I think it's
Sure, that's
like
part of it,
genetic.
yeah.
I think like we've had centuries of like this human psychology where we think that by being around people like us, we are safer.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like that's one of
Mm-hmm.
the ways that our ancient ancestors protected themselves is that they stayed around people who were like them so that
Yeah.
those who were a threat would stay away. And I think like in terms of biological evolution or neurological evolution, maybe
Mm-hmm.
even, that our brains have not caught up to modern society. And I think that
Yeah.
we see that in terms of like how we perceive difference, but also, man, in terms of even minute things like we perceive like everyday situations as life threatening because our brains are not attuned to like not having
Mm-hmm.
to be in survival mode all the time. So like if we say the
Yeah.
wrong thing to people, we might obsess on that for days,
Mm-hmm. It's
right?
fair.
our brain kicking into
Yeah.
overdrive because neurologically we haven't developed in the same way. So that's one of the reasons I think. How about what do you think? What do you think? Why about
No,
why
no,
we
I
feel this
definitely, I
need to be
definitely
around
agree.
people who are the same?
There is, yeah, I definitely agree. There is this lizard brain thing that kicks in that we
Yeah,
still don't, even in our most modern senses, aren't figuring out how to fully overcome. I think we can look at our lives, assess them, and begin to learn to understand when that's kicking in, and
yeah,
and resist it. But our natural instincts do tend to pull us that way. I do definitely think it's tribalism, which is all about safety, which is what we're talking about. Why do you feel so safe when you're there? So, yeah, I don't have any doubt that that's it. It's just interesting that that emotional uh, depth that goes back millions of years, well,
yeah.
a very long time back, overrides our logical minds that understand what the value of diversity is and all of that kind of thing. And it does it over and over again. And it, boy, that's rough, man. I hate that we're
I know.
wired that way, you know?
But I mean, that's one of the things that religion I think can do when it's at its best is that it can help
Mhm.
us kind of stop and say, "Hey, why am I doing this? And what
No.
should I be doing?" And religion often
Yeah. And I think
reinforces
that's the
stereotypes and stuff
yeah.
like that, but it can, if it's at its best, it
Yeah.
can help us
And
think about
I
things a little
think
bit
what
differently.
you said, what should I be doing? I think that that's kind of the
Yeah.
key here. It helps provide these goalposts that we can all collectively agree are good goalposts. And those, when you're focusing on those, you can see that lizard brain kicking in and see that it's not going to achieve that goalpost. What should I be doing, as you said it?
Yeah.
And provide us at least some impetus for moving away from the lizard brain, protect myself, stay with those like me, and doing things that's better for a larger portion of society. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you.
And I mean, man, we often don't think about how little time humanity has actually been on this earth. You know, I was reading the other day about there is a longer period of time between the time that the Triceratops lived and the T Rex lived, since we're talking about dinosaurs, than all of human history, like multiple
Yep.
times over. That humans have
Yeah.
just been here for like a microsecond in terms of the universe. And so I think that also says something about how we understand God, our understanding of the cosmos, and all of that. I want to shift
Yeah, I
gears.
think
Oh,
it's interesting that
yeah,
you brought that up though. That's
yeah,
perfect because it's actually in the movie. The daughter quotes Carl Sagan. We're
yeah,
like butterflies who flutter for a day and think it's forever.
yeah, yeah,
It's incredible. But yeah,
yeah.
it's exactly what you're saying. Carl Sagan had sort of a poetic way of saying it for us, and
As he
I
often
love,
does,
I,
right?
yeah, and I love that the daughter was sort of the science head and into Carl Sagan and gave us those quotes and helped the family understand what might be going on here. It was beautiful.
Maybe
I
a
love that.
portal. uh, I don't. Yeah, I
Mhm,
like that.
mhm.
Speaking of the daughter, uh,
Mm.
she kind of had a little bit of a romance here, a possible
Yeah.
romance with the neighbor. How'd you feel about how they handled the kind of budding possible lesbian romance of
Oh,
these
those
two?
cute as hell, man.
Yeah.
When she's bandaging her and the it's really the girl that they didn't know well, that first kind of, you could tell, was getting a little bit sweet on the daughter, and
Yeah.
then the daughter, as she's finishing up the bandaging, starts to maybe get the sense, and
Hmm.
the actress was so good. Just the tiniest little upturn of one side of her lips, where it was kind of like, oh, and you could tell that she was kind of like, hmm. I thought they handled it beautifully. They didn't make a big deal out of it. They did it just the
Yeah.
way it should be. It's two young folks who, for the first time, see each other and kind of are taken smitten with each other, and they handle. I thought they handled it beautifully. I loved at the end of the movie that there were two of her. One is the girlfriend, and now one's just the friend that comes over with mom and dad. That was kind of
Yeah.
fun. I loved it. Yeah. What do you think of it?
I really liked it too. I thought one that they handled it kind of like an 80s movie where there's not really a lot of context and then all of a sudden
Mm.
this budding romance is coming out of nowhere like okay, and you're right that it wasn't a big commentary on anything. It wasn't manufactured. It was just like there's an attraction and it's here. And I liked
thought
that. I really liked that.
And I also liked the choice of doing that in a movie like this, because here they are in the midst of chaos and hell and things that they would have never imagined, and it's this little moment of, you know what, life goes on, and they make it clean and nice and sweet, and you just see that even when things are horrible, they can still be okay. You know, you can still find these moments of goodness. So I loved that. I really did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One more question.
Yeah.
The dad in the movie, Ewan McGregor's character, he's kind of like maybe toxically optimistic, but also kind of right. I mean, he thinks everything's gonna be okay. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it is. Could you like give a theological difference between hope and then simply believing that everything's going to work out in the end? Is there a theological difference between those two things? At the end of our segment, here's 20 seconds. Could you just
to
parse that out
answer
for
a
us?
giant question? Is there a theological difference between hope and what was the second thing that you were?
I would say blind optimism or the simple belief that everything's going to be okay.
I mean, I think what we were dealing with in the movie was his was a little bit. It's like everything in life. It was a blend. His was a little bit of just blind optimism of just I'm choosing to decide that everything's going to be all right, and that's not healthy. That you are going to get destroyed over and over again. That is not the way to go. But he also, some of it was hinted with sort of just pragmatic. I've seen bad things happen with us, and I trust us. I know that we can figure out how to get through that. For me, that's the theological reality of what hope should be. It shouldn't be some blind hope in this future or something that might happen and that everything's going to be okay because the Bible says everything's going to be okay. It should be based more on reality of who we know each other are, who we know we can be, the things that we are claiming together that we're expecting out of life and where we're planning on taking it, and that we trust each other enough through experience that we're going to work towards something better. That's the hope that I think biblically we're ultimately asked to take on and to live into. The blind hope, maybe for brief little moments, you need it just so you can get through something hard, but you can't live in that because it will be dangerous in the long run, as far as I'm concerned. What do you think about the two?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. You can't live in blind hope, but also it's not always helpful to spiral as was happening in the movie.
Yeah.
I think the true biblical hope that we have is that we're not abandoned and that we're not alone. And
Sure.
that is the hope that we have from the gospel. That
And I would go as far as to say that we're not abandoned and we're not alone, because there is something of God, there is something of this thing we call love in the folks that are around us and we surround ourselves with, and that's where we learn to know God. That's where we learn to be accepted by God. That's where we learn to usher God together through the difficult times and pull us to where we need to be going.
Yeah, I mean that's the Imago Dei, right? That human beings are the reflection of God, and so we see God in the face of our neighbor, in the face of our loved ones, and if we recognize that, then even folks who feel like maybe God has abandoned them, like if we look and we see that our neighbors are still with us, that our loved ones are still with us, well, we haven't been abandoned. God is right there with us.
Yeah.
So I loved the theology and politics of some of this stuff. I thought it was I liked the movie. I also thought it had some fun commentaries, intentionally or unintentionally. Probably mostly unintentionally, if I'm being honest here in this movie. But it was fun. So I would love to talk more about that stuff. But hey, man, we got to get into our Make Me Look Stupid segment. So why don't we take a break, take a drink, and come back?
Big question for you.
Big question, and I haven't stolen anything. Man, I'm
No.
so disappointed in myself today. Okay, let's take a break, take a drink, and come back and try to.
Go ahead.
If I had stolen them, if I had stolen it, you would be surprised. What is it? You picked something really obscure?
Blown. If you'd have stolen this question, my mind would have been blown. Although
I'm using AI. I'm using AI from now on. I'm gonna start like I'm gonna say like
read everything Mark Sandlin has ever written.
Yeah, ever written.
Analyze.
Project what question he's gonna ask to try to make me look stupid. Okay, now for real. Let's take a break. Let's finish our drinks and let's come back and try to make each other look stupid.
Welcome back to our final segment, the Make Me Look Stupid segment, where we, as much as we really enjoy our time together, there's this wonderful opportunity to see if we can stump our co-hosts, make them look stupid, or if we're also not really feeling like we understood everything, we can just go ahead and admit right up front that we feel a little stupid and ask for our co-host to help us out, to answer a question that just has stumped us, or simply ask them to make a prediction that will ultimately in the future, probably, particularly if it's Caleb, make them look stupid. So
yeah, it's real.
I'm not doing any of that. I'm going to ask you a question that I just think
you're doing something new. So no wonder I'm not going to guess this. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a question I just think is interesting to think about. Okay. So this is also a time travel show, and at the end of it, by calling the dad, mom creates an alternative timeline, right? Mm-hmm. And in that alternative timeline, they're alive, but there are dinosaurs in the 1980s. So in the universe that now has this new 1980s with dinosaurs, does Jurassic Park get made?
Oh man.
I mean, I feel
maybe it's like a true story,
a documentary.
A documentary, man. It's no longer Michael Crichton. Like all of a sudden, it's her book, The End of Oak Street. It gets made, and it's not a sci-fi fantasy thing. It's a documentary in place of Jurassic Park. That is the new Spielbergian dynamic. That Spielberg makes this thing. It's his award-winning documentary.
I had not thought of that until you started going there. That's my favorite answer. I'm not answering it because that's my favorite answer right there. That's just absolutely, because for me it was like, wow, would anybody really care? Documentary, yes they would.
John Williams still scores though. We still get the sword.
Yeah, oh absolutely. We still need John Williams.
And we get the time for it.
Right? Yeah. That's just that might be your best answer you've ever given, Caleb. I just love that answer.
It's because I had this old fashioned with specific homage to Jurassic Park. That's why.
Very nice.
That's why. It was my drink today.
I like it. Yeah. All right. So your question to me, sir.
Okay. So this is a continuation of the story. So I'm curious. This family had some issues, right? It was a pretty typical family, right? But the parents weren't communicating real well.
Right.
They were talking about the possibility of divorce. But then they had this traumatic experience in which they all bonded together. And then, as you just pointed out, there are now dinosaurs in their old neighborhood, right? What do you think happens next in the story? If there's a part 2 of this, does the family stay together? What happens to the neighborhood? Does it come back? What do you think
Yeah.
happens next in the story?
I do think the family ends up staying together. They had gotten bogged down in the everyday life when they were not engaging with each other in any way that mattered or that changed anything. And I think that the experience they went through forced them to see the value in each other. It forced them to face what losing the other might be like. It made them value the family unit and how much that really mattered to them. So I think, yeah, I think they do stay together. And I think that then, they set up a giant electric fence around what was their city. And then they go in and they film this Jurassic Park like documentary. What do you think happens?
Well, I think were we to have a part 2 of this story, I think we would find that they got that things went better for a while, but ultimately, once they got beyond the dinosaurs, all their problems were still waiting for them. Because
Yeah.
whether or not you have a happy ending depends on where you stop telling the story, I suppose. And so I think that they would have found that their problems were still waiting for them. I don't know if
Sure.
what the next step would look like for them beyond that. But I like yours better. I think they all got. Well, I mean, she wrote a book, I guess.
Well,
So.
yours was grounded in reality and human life. Mine was grounded in the campy storylines of 1980s movies. So,
And therefore is better. You win. You win you win the make me look stupid segment because you embrace the campiness of the 1980s. I love
unintentionally,
it.
I did. Unintentionally, I did. But yeah, it works out. So listen, we need a show to watch the next time. Honestly, there's not a lot of great movies coming out this week, but last night the new HBO special. Well, special. I think it's maybe eight shows, but we're getting the new Lanterns series. We've struggled with Lanterns unless it was some of the animated stuff. Lanterns has not worked out very well so far. I got to tell you,
come
Caleb.
on, Ryan Reynolds.
Oh yeah, he was great. Sure. I watched the first episode.
Yeah.
So Lanterns HBO, the HBO Lanterns is sort of it's Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern, training John Stewart in sort of this weird, odd couple buddy cop movie based on the Lanterns comic books and shows and movies.
And not Guy Gardner.
Really, not well.
Right?
We've seen a spoiler, and I mean, I think that maybe in one of the trailers we get a hint that Guy Gardner is he's not going to be a main character, but I think he may pop in every few shows and kind of shake things up. The relationship between Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart is really fascinating, really interesting. They do a great job, and it's a really grounded telling of a story about cosmic peacekeepers. So it's kind of wild. We'll only have 2 episodes, but I think it might be interesting because it seems to be such a new take on these superheroes to talk about what we saw and then come back at the end of the season and go, where did we end up? Was this worth this new take? Did it work? I just think that'd be the fascinating and interesting to take on. So what do you think? You good with that?
I'm good with that. I've been waiting to see this.
Ryan Reynolds was not in it. So I think that's important when you make the
No,
Deadpool I was this show.
I was really hoping that we get that CGI suit and everything, man.
And his cheesy over the top. Never mind. I will leave it alone.
But I'll tell you that Green Lantern movie. What was it? 2012. The 2012 Green Lantern movie. It was worth making so that he could make fun of it in Deadpool. Right?
In Deadpool, that's fair. Yeah, 100%.
It was
100.
worth
I
the
don't know
movie
that-
just so that he
I
could
don't-
make fun of it.
I don't know that the executives and producers that suck the money into it would say that, but I agree with you.
Well, and, I mean, at the end of the day, isn't that all that matters? I mean,
It is,
we're
it
we're
is.
happy enough about it. Who cares?
Exactly.
Who cares?
Exactly. All right. We really appreciate you all joining us for the show today. We had the best time. We always enjoy getting together. We always enjoy having you along for the ride with us. We get to do this, our favorite part of the week, because you show up and listen. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And all of that said, we'll see you the next time on the Moonshine Jesus Show.
Moonshine Jesus.